I'm happy to kick it off. And maybe I'll start with you, Aqua. We've known each other for a while now. It's been a great pleasure and honor to learn from you in your many roles as an artist, working with the Boston Art Commission, observing you lead that through the takedown movement, some really tricky things that you guys have had to do, and of course through the Roxbury Sunflower Project, which you started in the Now and Their Accelerator program. And let us not forget the Spark Art Mobile. I loved being part of that and watching you 2 of those paint nights, which feels like a long time ago now. I'm curious, so from all these different vantage points, how do you see public art shaping our city? And if you want to sort of talk about your definition of public art too, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think my definition is expanding. Someone suggested to me that even a children's book could be considered public art because it's housed in a public institution, a public library, it's accessible to everyone, it's free, and all of that. So I think, we're at a time when the definition is evolving, coming from a time when, there were bronze statues of men on horses as a definition of public art memorials to today, where we have living, breathing, moving monuments, projections, just so many different things that we can utilize to have a conversation in the public space. And it's really exciting being able to launch the Sunflower Project, for instance. And it was only supposed to be 1 year. And now we're in year 4, and it keeps growing because it's a seed. And I feel like some of the work that Kate, you, and Sylvia are doing, those are seeds that are being planted in public space and therefore have public influence. I came up during the Black Arts mural movement here in Roxbury. We were one of the first parts of this city to have a lively public art mural conversation. And I can name 4 or 5 artists that say that they are artists today because they looked at those murals, because they realized that they could dream big and they could have big conversations with their community members and with the public. And now they're doing that. So I think we have a lot of influence. I think during the Black Arts mural movement, there were very few women involved. I think Sharon Dunn was the only woman who did a mural here in Boston. But now look at this panel. So we are kicking down doors in many different ways. And the main focus is about access. It's about telling all the stories of our city, not just one narrative that seems safe and comfortable for a certain segment of society, but telling all the stories. And I don't know about you, but when I'm picking books, when I'm picking movies, when I'm picking TV shows, I want good stories. And I think that the public has a hunger for good stories. And I'm so thrilled to be a part of that.
I love that and your work is very much about storytelling and evolution and helping people sort of even choose their own narrative through it. The Sunflower Project, someone can take a seed and decide which path that seed is going to go on and where they're going to put it and how much they're going to water it. And I do just so much appreciate those doors that you've been opening up for decades now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that. I so agree with the fact that we do need more and continue to support this through the work that we do. And I have a question for Rosemary. I just like as we were reviewing the panel, the different groups in the panel discussions that we had, it was just so remarkable to see for how long you've been supporting artists of various backgrounds but very much focused on BIPOC artists of color and diverse groups. And I supporting them in the making of public art right there in Springfield, Massachusetts. That's like 25 plus years or so at this point. And my question to you, just As also a woman of color, why is it important to you that artists of color are also creating public art? And how have you been seeing public art made by artists of color change or impact Springfield, like the city you live in?
Okay, well, I'm going to start from my hometown of Philadelphia. When you say public art, along with Eka, I think the concept of what public art is so broad and so different. I come from an urban city, Philadelphia. We're the city of murals, but in my generation, the public art was really graffiti art. Artists who, some of the world-renowned muralists who were getting on subway trains, doing abandoned buildings, and a different canvas that they had. So it was more of an expression to be recognized, to make a statement. So when I got into art in the galleries building, a part of it, I really didn't view murals as part of public art because it had always had a negative connotation to it. Mine, what I would say to artists, whether it's on a canvas inside of a gallery, whether it's on a subway train, which they're not doing anymore, but just with the utility boxes, which was a project that we had, it was that need to make a statement to, I've always felt that the art had to represent the people that was viewing it, surrounding it. And it always had to have a theme. It didn't really matter where, because one of the first projects as far as public art is concerned that I saw was in Europe. And they actually did trash trucks, all the trucks. What more could make something that you're a waste turn into beauty? So to me, it's hard to define public art. I think coming into the gallery, which is open to the public, free and open to the public, with an artist, various artists, that's public art. The public is welcome to see it, to comment on it. And I think that when you say public art, who is the public?
Mm.
Oh, are we now narrowing it down? As far as the mural projects, which I got involved in, I thought it was very interesting that at the time that we sent out the RFP, that you didn't find a lot of BIPOC artists applying, because they also had in their mind, oh, in order to do public art, you had to be at a certain stature in life or certain resume. No, not true. Some of the artists who have never taken a class are also some of the world-renowned muralists, as we now call them. Before, they were just graffiti artists. Mm-hmm. So what I say to young artists, especially emerging artists, that you have to be persistent. You have to treat it like a business. And if you just put your all into it, they say if you do what you like, if you love what you do, then the money will come, or something like that. So that's what I say. To me, public art, private art, whatever, you have to love doing it. It can't be just for the reward of monetary reward. And if that was the case, I know Basquiat is turning over in his grave with what his art is selling for, compared to when I met him and he was doing graffiti art out on doors or subways or wherever he could get a canvas.
It's certainly true. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that the city of Boston just awarded a commission to a graffiti artist to put a piece inside of the new Roxbury Public Library. And part of the thinking is that we want to draw, art draws people. And if we keep the graffiti artists out on the street doing, you know, Jersey barriers and things like that, we're not really embracing the community of people who can respond to that. So this is kind of like evolutionary for this artist. This is their first big commission. It's going to be on view in a very well-used library. And I wanted to pick up on something Rosemary mentioned, which is like the generosity. You mentioned an artist coming in with their artwork in a paper bag. I mean, we all start somewhere, and being able to say to that artist, hey, I've got an extra portfolio. That's part of the gig, you know. It's part of the gig when somebody calls you up and says, my daughter's interested in art, can she come and show you her drawings? It's part of the gig to look at those drawings and to find the thing within those drawings that can lead her to the next revelation in her own work. And, you know, when you work at an art college, or in even what you guys are doing, Sylvia, I'm sure people are coming to you all the time with their cousins, sisters, daughters, friends who are artists and who admire your work and who want to do what you're doing and want to know what the secret sauce is. But it is part of the gig if you are blessed to have a platform to make yourself accessible to people in a way that still allows you to do what you do, but also allows you to give from the heart to that next generation that we're always talking about.
I thank you for saying that. It's so true. I gotta say, you know, if it wasn't for these artists who have taken so many risks for so long on the streets, right, that's what really has paved the way for murals to be happening today in the way that they are happening, you know. And I'm so grateful to have all the work that I have, but I must say that I am standing on their shoulders because I was not one of those artists. I come from a different background, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm also so aware of the importance of that mentorship and that generational aspect of being able to be mentored and to also continue that same ability to share what you know to the younger artists, to people who want to do this work, and be able to continue to create that pipeline of artists doing this work and doing it well. And I'm astonished to read so much about all that you guys have accomplished. And Tracy, for you, you're so humble, and you have helped transform the landscape of Springfield through public art, using that lens of racial justice, you know, using that, you know, through mentorship to young artists and artists with disabilities, and you're working with the public schools, and same in similar ways for you. I've been a mentor in so many levels. So thank you.
I love this idea of standing on shoulders and building on the generosity of others. And when we were running the jury process, you know, this is a leadership award, and we really had a lot of conversation about what is leadership and how can leadership be emergent. And, you know, it was pretty obvious to all of us that you two, just in the longevity of your careers, are leaders. And I've personally been looking at entrepreneurial leadership. You know, if we're thinking about artists, I think they are all entrepreneurs. You know, I watch Sylvia, she does the painting, she does the marketing, she does the pitch deck, she does like practically all the permitting, the community engagement. And, you know, sometimes I think that's unfair that we expect all of that in one person. So I hope there are more organizations that support individuals. I'm curious, through this, you know, this long transition of watching the field evolve from graffiti to, you know, graffiti being sanctioned, to murals, to the recognition of artists as business people and entrepreneurs, and getting more financial support. How do you see, and what is your hope for the future of the field, and how through your leadership are you seeing it evolve? And either of you can take that question.
Rosemary, do you want to jump in?
Yeah.
You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I stress to all my artists, I tried to start an emerging artist program. I tell all my artists, especially BIPOC artists, because we don't come into, and I don't want to make it a whole picture, but most of us don't come into anything with any financial background. So I tell them, look, you need to see and pricing their work. I tried to tell them that. Price your work like you're worth what you're asking for. And artists have a hard time with that. I tell all my artists, you need to take a business course. If you until you can afford an accountant and a marketing director and everything else that you need, because I can't do it either, but take it as a business. The same way you go to that job and work your art in the same way. So I stress because it's so important. And I think the younger artists seem to get it because everyone wants the latest sneakers and the latest BMW and the latest that. And they have the edge with the social media, wherein I'm still doing paper flyers and old-fashioned stuff. They are all on social media. But I stress that you have to. Then I say, look at it. Even as far as I ask them, how do you buy your canvas? You know, if you're not buying a roll of canvas, cutting it and stretching it, how do you purchase that? Why don't you set up an account, buy it wholesale, and then get that wholesaler to sponsor one of your events? So I tried to give them some of the keys that I have, that I've gained. And it hasn't just all been easy. I take some courses, this and that, but coming from having 8 brothers and the only girl, I was always trained to be the one. My grandfather had a little corner store. I always had to count the cans, how much it was. So that was ingrained. And even in my work field, working for the state of Connecticut for all the years that I did, I had a habit of writing down every dime that I spent, because I would always have to account for that. And I tell artists, get into small habits that can help you and take it as a business. And I think more institutions need to, like UMass Art Extension has a entrepreneur program and art as a business program. And we used to sponsor that through a grant. And I found that artists wouldn't always attend. Those who were serious, they did. And it's just that if they're serious about their work, they will. And if they're not, then they won't succeed at art or anything else. But I stress all of that. And paying taxes. Pay your taxes. I know so many artists that, I mean, well, you know, I have some artists that are performers and they never paid into the union. Now they find themselves 70 years old. They went to Broadway, made money, didn't put anything aside, and they find themselves displaced. I said, you don't want to wind up like that. So I said, you know, art's a business.
I would add to that, on that business line, invest in a piece of property.
Yes.
Because, you know, all of us that are here right now have been, well, most of us have been displaced or in the process of having to rethink where our studios are, where we're living and how we're living. So I say, if you can, invest in a piece of property so you will never get that notice that says, you know, 30 days and you're out. Keep the continuity of your work. But from a different perspective, as a member of the Boston Art Commission, I think what we need to do as a city is provide more scaffolding. What tends to happen is those artists who have done public art are those artists that get to do public art. And when you're coming from being a studio artist and you're trying to make that breakthrough, you don't know about the permitting. You don't know about the rules. You don't know about how to get a wall or how to get a field or something like that. And I think the city can do some things, some educational things, along with just looking at proposals and saying yay or nay. We can and I think should do some educational things so that younger artists or less experienced artists who want to make that transition have a pathway that they can follow. So I would love to see during my tenure some kind of either a series of workshops or something like that, maybe in partnership with a group like Now and There, because that's basically what you do. And I know that there's some artists that I've talked to about why they don't apply for some of the proposals that come out from the city. And it was kind of heartbreaking to hear someone say that, you know, you put your soul out there and people just act like it was nothing. They just say no. And there's no follow through. There's no, we said no for this reason, and this is what you could do better next time. That whole education and mentoring that that Rosemary's been doing, that I've been doing over the years, it could be a more formal thing. It could be just a part of the way we do business in the city of Boston. So I would like to see some things like that.
That seems easy. That's just like put together some courses and some money and, you know, water those seeds.
Yeah. I mean, not to say that the city hasn't, because I love the Boston Air program, for instance, where you're matching artists with municipal offices and doing some things. I think that's a great start, but you know, we could do more.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Indeed. And I just have to say, I'm so grateful for Now and There and Kate's organization, because really my very first big public project is the picture she has behind her head right now. It's the mural at the Charles River Esplanade. And during that mural, I learned so much during that process, from planning all the way to completion. I learned so much that all these things that I learned through that project, I've been applying over and over and getting better and learning new things, and depending on the projects. But that is crucial for being able to, as a studio artist, come out to the street and actually do this work, especially also as a woman. So it's super important to be able.
And again, what I appreciate about your work and all three of you is the generosity, because it wasn't just you painting. There were all these other women that you were training alongside you who have now gone on to do other murals themselves within 3 years.
Indeed.
So you guys are all kicking down the doors and bringing a whole lot of people along with you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, because this was a question I had when Rosemary, you started talking about it, about all of the things that you, like, what are those things that you would actually share with others, right? And so I think that just recapping, because for me it's so important, is to take charge, right? Treat your art like a business.
Yes.
Take charge and find sponsorship, take courses, learn to manage your money, create those small habits that can help you, right? And pay your taxes. I love it.
And know that you're worthy. Know that you're worthy. I mean, artists are afraid. I know I used to be afraid. They say, well, what is your fee? So I looked up and to find out what are other consultants in my field charging. And I would say, but you don't get it if you don't ask. Know that you're worthy. I look at people, I've seen people, you out in the hot sun, or paint. I don't draw, but I can appreciate the art. You spent hours. First of all, how many hours did you spend on it? What was your paint cost? What did you give up? Price it with that. You can't ever outprice it. And the more ridiculous, I find some artists price their art because they don't really want to sell it. It's their baby. But I tell them, leave all the kids at home. Don't bring anything to the gallery you don't want to get rid of, because it will get sold. But price it like that. You know, if they can sell a banana on a wall for whatever it's sold for at Art Basel, then you can definitely sell your art for something. And if they were paying dollars and cents, they could never pay you for your talent or the creativity and the love that goes into a piece of art. So, I mean, it's bad with me because I am just an advocate for the artists, because I see so many times artists just get robbed. I've seen galleries take artists' work. I had a gallery I was working with in Canada, and they were actually taking my artist's work that he sold for $700. And when it got to Canada, that $700 piece of work went for $7,000. I'm like, you're not only making 100% more, and you're not sending anything back to the artist. Absolutely not. So we renegotiated our prices with them. But yeah, and it's something that people will take advantage of, because all of the artists, we're such humble, such kind people. A lot of people say, well, I give it away. I say, are you kidding me? You're giving your art away?
Yeah, it's
yeah,
tough, right? It's so
yeah,
difficult
yeah.
to be working.
Or they want to
as an
negotiate.
artist. Yes,
I see people buy BMWs, Jags, and don't blink an eye. And they come into the gallery and right away they want to negotiate. I say, what, did I have a sign up here say flea market? The sign says free, browsing is free, not the art is free. And I have a problem with artists. I tell them, when your work is here, we will not negotiate. What's on it will stay. Now, after it leaves the gallery, if you want to sell it for $1, you do that. But while it's here, it's $1,000. And do not cheapen yourself by negotiating a lower price, because they don't negotiate when they go to Macy's. You can't negotiate when you go to the dentist or any place else. I mean, sometimes you can, but how are you going to make a profit? How are you going to sustain yourself? You want to be a working artist? What, working where? So you have to stress it to them and make them know that they're so worthy, because they are. What makes us any different? I say us, although I'm not an artist, but I'm more so in the art realm than I am in the real world.
And I have to say, being right, so it's so challenging to actually make a living as an artist. So I think that it's so important to also think about, like, what is that thing that brings you joy through this process? What replenishes you, and what inspires you to keep going and doing the work that you're doing? And I wonder what that is for you guys. Like a question we wanted to ask too.
I can't wait to get up every morning. I can't wait. I go to bed thinking about, okay, tomorrow morning, I'm going to put some blue on that. I'm going to put black on that. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to write this. I feel very excited. I've always been excited by the arts, the art world. I'm a student of Elma Lewis. If you don't know who she is,
oh my goodness,
the Boston landscape with her passion and her determination and just the force of her character, where she was brought up in a Garveyite household. And so she taught us as young ballerinas about the value of who we were, and that we were long-stemmed American beauties, and that we could dance, the ballet russe and all of that kind of stuff. And that was a little girl's dream. But that confidence transferred into other parts of my life. And I still think of her quite a bit as I go about working in the visual arts world. She created a museum through the National Center for Afro-American Artists. She had a 3-legged strategy, visual arts, theater, and dance. And so I've been excited about art since I was 5 years old. New box of 64 crayons with the built-in sharpener. My little turntable where I would play Three Billy Goats Gruff over and over again. Music, theater, Black Nativity. It runs through my veins. And I feel like, on my last day on this earth, if I could be in a museum or in my studio or at someone else's studio, hint, hint, Sylvia and Kate, then that would be just life for me. And when you find your tribe, I think as an artist, some of us are in situations where we're kind of the odd person in the classroom. Everybody else wants to play football and we want to draw little people. When you find your tribe, that is a moment of sheer joy. And when you can usher someone into the tribe, someone who is that odd person, a teen who maybe isn't being encouraged at home because their parents, like my parents, didn't see, well, what are you going to do just because you can draw? What are you going to do with that? If you can be a bridge for that person, into this world of joy that we live in. I think that that is like another special moment that we have.
That's beautiful.
Rosemary, what about you? What keeps you, replenishes you and keeps you going and inspired to do the work you're doing?
Well, really, this probably the same thing. I've never felt like I belonged. I mean, like I say, growing up with 8 brothers in South Philly, between South Philly and the Carolinas, and I've always been made to feel like I was strange. I mean, I am so good with this social distancing. It's unbelievable. COVID didn't have to come to me. And I always tell people, I mean, it may sound terrible to say, but I always say, I don't like humans. I do not like humans. They're not I don't like people. I don't like humans. So I used to be an avid reader. I mean, I would go away and read, I would read 2 or 3 books. I love music. And when I would listen to opera, although I didn't know anything about it, it was a calming. It's always been such chaos with the music business and everything that was going on. Art and sorry, seemed to be my like I was in a cocoon. So it's always brought me so much peace. So when I get up, I want to say, okay, I have this going on and that going on. I can immediately put the music on. And I ask people, if you didn't have art, what would you do? If you couldn't listen to the radio, if you couldn't see someone sing, if you couldn't open up your eyes, art is everything. So like I said, it saved my life. It's my comfort zone. I don't go to the mall with my girlfriends. People say, oh, when you went to Paris, did you shop? No, but I don't know any museum or gallery that I missed of all of Paris. So that's what I do. I can go. I remember the first time I went to the New York Museum of Fine Art. Before I got there, every security guard was sitting in a nod, sleeping. The moment I got in, they got up and started following me around. I'm like, am I going to take one of these masterpieces off the wall? I wish I could, but I could sit and look at, not even just look at a piece of art, but just be in that comfort zone. Because like I said, I really don't like people.
You would never know that, Rosemary.
I know humans are
Yes,
so
indeed.
But I have heard that from other artists too. Like, I don't like people, and I'd rather be in my studio. I would rather be in my studio too.
Yeah.
COVID has definitely given us,
Yeah.
a two-sided, blessing by being able to stay at home. And if you have a moment, you can just go over there and work on a painting, and then scoot over to your computer and do a Zoom, and then, so transitioning back is going to be definitely a transition. But I'm
not an artist, but I will, like, I'm on the, if I'm on the web and all that, I'll look for artists or read articles, what's new, what's happening. Just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's such a difference. But I go to a Goodwill, buy art book and look through it. I don't know, it's hard. It's very hard to explain. And I don't really get along with people that are not artists or not creative. I mean, if they're not creative, my girlfriends that like to do the mall, I'm saying, you guys are so superficial. How many pairs of heels you gonna buy? I mean, you got a million cords on your feet. What you need with heels, I mean, I just can't see the reasoning.
Well, one of the things that, like, I think we can wrap this up to, like, with one question to go here. And what I see, you guys, this theme that you're talking about is someone made me, probably Sylvia, feel not normal because we were valuing creativity, we were valuing expression over, what society was telling us that we were supposed to be doing, right? And I wonder if we can make this leap back to public art as the vehicle for there's this phrase that my friend Lori Lobenstein from DS4SI says, making the strange normal. Do you guys see that in your work in any way, or can you see a way that public art can either make these abnormal things normal or support us in sort of coming back together post-COVID? Maybe Aqua.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'm loving is that more artists are being invited to tables that they were usually excluded from, or a secondary thought, like, oh, we'll have the artist come in and do a vendor market. But now artists are being invited to the table where decisions are being made about what's happening in our city and what's happening in our institution. So I think that is definitely one thing that might have been considered strange 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now it's becoming normalized. I think that young people that are coming up, I'm so proud and energized by the generations coming after me, who are coming in with a sense of positive entitlement. Like, I deserve to have my say. I deserve to have my space. And I deserve to control and be a part of what happens in that space and with my voice. And I feel like my generation, we were a little bit more, timid. We had been told that, Black people didn't do that. Hispanic people don't do that. We don't go there. We don't. But now I see this bold movement among young people of all races that are just saying, you know what, not good enough for me. So that's another thing that I think might have been strange in my day coming up, but is now becoming normalized. And it makes me feel, I said this to one of my former students, like, I feel like I can exhale a little bit now, because I think when you've been doing work for a long time, you begin to feel like the work isn't going to get done unless you're there. And they have made me feel like, you know what, Ekwa, you could sit down for a little while and just kind of like watch, get on Zoom and listen and watch and that kind of thing. And that's how life should be. We're passing the baton, we're in a relay. And when you put that baton out there to pass it, if there's nobody to take it, that's so disheartening. But I feel like it's, there's so many talented, powerful, articulate, poetic young people out there. And young to me means, anybody under 50, doing awesome things, starting businesses, seeing their art as a business, starting right from there instead of, when they turn 50, figuring out that, oh yeah, I have to invoice people. And I could probably think of some other things, even the changes on the Boston Art Commission, which, as you know, probably started out as a group in the 1800s of little ladies drinking tea and deciding which hero they were going to make a myth about and make a statue about it. And now it's this dynamic force with landscape architects and professors and, scholars in murals and things like that. And so it's great to be a part of that too. And that will become the norm. Dynamism will become the norm in this city. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I love that. And I just wanted to also mention, Ekwa, that, your sunflower project, earlier you were mentioning how we're planting seeds, right? And that those seeds are growing, and that's what you've been doing also. And the idea, just thinking through this, that you mentioned as well earlier, of kicking down doors, right? Through public art, like who is the people in leadership? Who are those new doors that need to start opening up, to think through why are we selecting certain people that supposedly should be awarded? This was something that was selecting both of you, Rosemary and Ekwa, was very challenging in terms of the amount of people that the panel overall had to look through. And it was a very difficult decision. There's so many things that we have to consider, but we asked a lot of questions about what does leadership look like? What is leadership? And you were mentioning in previous conversations about education. Is it education? Is it experience? Is it, what are those elements that we're looking at? And through the lens of social justice and racial justice, right? Mm-hmm. That aspect of that. And I think that's definitely part of that future that we hope to see more of in public art. Mm-hmm. Rosemary.
Yeah, felt great to be in that group of people that I saw. They're all such great artists and communicators and activists that it really elevated the honor for me to be chosen this year along with Rosemary. So I thank NEFA for that.
Well, I've been out here so long, all I can say is that I am so glad that at this point, I would go to meetings and like I said, be the only person of color there. And I would always get that, do you know where the refreshments are? And I would say, gee whiz, I got on my Giovanni consignment shop suit here and I look like I'm serving coffee, but that's okay. I am so glad that I can see the change, that after all of being say, oh, she's very difficult. She's oh no, I used to be termed the angry Black female. That now they can see, well, maybe she's not so angry. To have open doors and to see the change after all of these years, I think is worth it. And I'm so glad for that. And I do see younger artists coming out, professional, articulate, just with creative. So that's the reward. And if that's what I had to do as far as kicking doors in, I don't know if that door is going to go all the way or not. I'm gonna have to get a new pair of shoes, but I won't stop. And that's my reward, knowing that somehow I've been able to make a small change for another human being. That's all.
Love it.
Just a little something.
Yeah.
It's a lot of somethings. I think both of you have made an incredible lasting impact on the art world, on the public art world. And I think we've only started to just get to the tip of the iceberg on this conversation. On behalf of all of us, I want to thank NEFA and the Newell Flather Award.
Yes.
Thank you for making this award. Thank you for recognizing public art as an art form in and of itself and the people that it takes to make it. Just from my own perspective, it takes hundreds of people and lots of money to make public art. You know, and the scaffolding and all the shoulders that we're standing on and the doors that get kicked down. So this has been so, you know, the question of what brings you joy. This brings me joy when I can feel your energy through this little screen and know that we all have a lot more work to do. But just to thank you, Rosemary and Aqua, again for everything you've done, and congratulate you and view a new little future member. Maybe that's the 20th anniversary Newell Flather awardee over there.
Yeah. She's adorable. She's Asia is assisting me, and she has her baby here. We can't wait. I mean, like, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Start them young.
Love it.
Yeah.
Joy for
Thank
sure.
Yeah.
And thank you
Well,
so
for the work
much.
that you're
Thank
doing as
you.
well. Kate, through Now and There, you are launching, you know, worlds. And Sylvia, your work is such an inspiration along the city landscape. And I hope to, you know, at some point get involved in one of your community engagement processes. But, you know, we're all so busy. We're trying to look in on each other on Instagram. But, you know, but I do hope to have that opportunity. And Rosemary, you know, you and I have a date in Springfield for something.
Yeah.
We don't know what yet, but
Yeah.
I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate NEFA, Newell Flather, and all the people who are making this big dramatic change in what Boston looks like, what Massachusetts can look like.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys come up and help me rally up Springfield, get them moving. We're in the second stage of fresh paint with Commonwealth murals. So hopefully, and just to, it's not, Western Mass is not as aggressive or as Boston, but I'm so glad to see the collaboration, and we can collaborate. It's only an hour away. You know, you can drive that mobile and we can plant some sunflower seeds here and just like do it statewide, you know?
Sounds
But
like
yeah, truly believe in collaboration and also in women helping women. I asked my granddaughter, I come from a generation, we women helped women, white, black, green, whatever. And I said, what's wrong with girls today? They don't help each other. They don't, she says, Nana is just too competitive. So we have to break that down, because I have friends who started in the art movement, and they said they actually would have to wait till their husbands were asleep at night. Dingham McCann, and famous fabric artist, lots of them, Faith Ringo, where they couldn't outwardly express their interest in art. So we need to do more in supporting each other, females, and not fear. I tell everyone there's plenty to go around. Nothing comes to a closed fist, but if you extend that hand of friendship and keep it open, everything can come in.
Right. And I always say, if there's not enough pie to go around, make another pie.
Yes.
There you go.